Welcome to this next to last session. The very last session today will be fun, as we have the band called, what was it, Eternal something. Anyway, it's going to be fun. But this session necessarily isn't going to be fun, but this will be very useful. So, today you have been probably in this room in many sessions. Before this session, all the sessions have been pretty much about coding, how to code for Windows Phone. That's the basic idea for the sessions. This is different, very different. This is something that happens after that. So it's kind of code complete. Code is now done. What happens then? We need to publish the application. How do we do it correctly? What are the mistakes that we might encounter? By the way, how many of you have Windows phones already? Oh, pretty much everyone. So this time, I encourage you to actually use it during my session. Because all the things that I will tell you is real-world experience. I mean, I have 2 applications in Windows Marketplace. You can actually start downloading these right now. Sketch Maps, which is a map with drawing abilities, and Sketch Views, which is a video application with drawing ability. So, those are in Marketplace. So everything that I will tell you is from my own experience. And this is not theory. This is what I have encountered. So, sketch maps and sketch views, easily findable everywhere in the world where Windows Marketplace is available. So, basics first. How to get started? The easy things. Of course, Application Hub, Developer Portal. That's what you need in the beginning. You log into your Application Hub and download Windows SDK and probably Windows Toolkit. Pay $99 a year, and you will be a developer, and you can use your developer account to unlock your phone. So, I mean, any phone, it can be Lumia phone, just put it with the USB and unlock it with the tool which is in the SDK. Windows Phone Development Registration. Nothing very interesting. Then, to more important things. Reverse engineering. This is very important that you understand this. This is not native code. This is intermediate code. And if you don't protect your code, it's very easily reverse engineerable. So, I mean, I can take the DLL and put it back to C#, and I know all your secrets unless you do this. And there is a really, really easy solution for this, and it's called obfuscator. It's obfuscate your code. Never release single application without using this. Always use obfuscator. The good news is that this is free. The only thing that you have to do is to go to preemptive solutions, register, download it, and you will get the key and you can use it. So the Microsoft has a deal with them. Always obfuscate your code. If you don't do it, I can get all your secrets what you have in there. It's the same problem as in Java. The next thing is that once you compile your application in Visual Studio, you get the XAMPP file. Once you obfuscate it, you get a second obfuscated file, and you have to deploy it to your emulator and probably to phone to test it. Because there is so many obfuscation options that it doesn't necessarily work. That was, for example, in my case, in Sketch Maps, it didn't work. So I had to tweak it, test it again, and find the right kind of amount of obfuscation. Very, very important. All my applications are obfuscated using the obfuscator. So, now we have the XAMPP file, which we can put to Marketplace. The basics first. This is the process as a whole. So, you upload that obfuscated XAMPP package to Windows Marketplace. It's validated, and after tests, sign it, and it will be in the marketplace. In more detail, this is from the actual application hub. So the first thing is that you upload your XAMPP file there. The second thing, probably actually the first thing, is you have to try to find a unique name. Before you do this, it's very important that you register the website for you. Because if you don't, someone else is going to do it. And it's really, really hard to find good names because all the good ones are taken and pretty much all the bad ones are taken. I was lucky, Sketchmaps was free, so I registered the website, and after that, I started the registration process. Well, you also need description. You have to, of course, find a category which describes your application. If it's a game, well, it's game. If it's something else, it depends. Several categories, subcategories. And try to find one which describes your solution. Then there is the detailed description. Keep it short, if possible. If you make updates to your application, usually you just add the new features to that description. Also, there is a possibility to give keywords. In this case, well, it's draw. You can save it. A few other things. This is the next phase. It's not just all about coding. You need other skills too. I mean, marketplace requires certain type of graphics. Screenshots, obviously. But also you have to have several tiles or icons, different sizes for different purposes. Those all are required. If something is missing, it's a failure. I mean, it's never going to be in the marketplace. If you're very lucky, you are featured, and the background art will be in the startup of the Windows marketplace. Making money. Also important, surprise. So, what do we do? Well, you can put a price tag in your application. Well, how does it work? If I'm in Finland and I say that it's €1, that's the only price that I can give. The other prices come automatically. So, for example, in China, it would be 99, and in US dollars. Why there's actually price differences? Well, in Finland we have tax, for example. So first, in Finland, the tax goes away, and then there's like 70% goes to developer and 30% goes to Microsoft. In near future, we are going to have a lot more countries. There is like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and these are coming. Already there is China and Indonesia, so a lot of people. By the way, there's one problem with this. If you have published your application, it doesn't automatically go to new countries. So, for example, I didn't notice for a while that there is China available. So it wasn't available in China. So I had to kind of go back there to Application Hub, check it, and then there is a new process to check it, that it's okay, that it works in China. It wasn't exactly localized, but that's the thing. So you can put a price tag on your application. Usually it's a very good idea to give a chance to try your application. And there's very, very easy trial API. That's it. License information, it's true or false, whether it's the trial or whether it's, purchased. That's it. It's that as easy as that. So, and usually it's kind of good idea to also make settings for your Visual Studio so that you can actually test it. So, for example, in this case here, I have Visual Studio, and this is really the code of the sketch maps. So I have actually the trial version here, So I can test it, run it, and in this case it's deploying to emulator. Of course I could use my phone also, but this is now easier. So the idea in sketch maps, first it uses location. So we need a location policy. This is important. We are going to talk about it a little bit later. I accept the policy, and as it's trial, I get some advertisements. And basically, the idea is that we have a map with the drawing ability, and of course, we also have location. So where am I? GPS coordinates. It downloads it, and there is the advertisements which I choose. And of course, I can do a few other things. So, in general, trial is a good idea. It's about 10% of trials are converted to commercial versions. So your application is downloaded much more if you do the trial. So it's really, really good feature and very easy to use. So there was those advertisements. So where they come from? When you start a Windows Phone application, the first control that you have there in the current SDK is add control. It's drag, drop, that's it. There's your banner. It's that easy. And this kind of advertisements come from the Microsoft systems. There's something that, and that's it. Those advertisements just pop up. So, what is the logic behind that? Of course, if someone clicks that advertisement, I get my share. That's the idea. Like in advertisements in general. And that's just a control. The only thing that you really need is that you need application ID, which is, in this case, hidden, because these are really screenshots from real life. So you have to register your application, and then there is categories. For example, in my case, there is hobbies, sports, and shopping. 3 categories. You can pick 3. So it can be like subcategories like, okay, so let's say that sports, golf, rally, or something else. But one thing, before you release your application, test and look what kind of advertisements you get. Because I tried advertisements which were personal finance. And if you kind of have been around the internet, if you kind of think what is personal finance, there's usually like really weird advertisements. So I was, okay, I don't want to do anything to do with this. So I think I just choose sport and, you know. Personal finance is, well, you can try it. And as you saw it, it works in the emulator. By the way, Windows 8 is the same thing. It uses Marketplace for the Metro applications, those tablet things. And, of course, Windows 8 is beta at the moment. But the same things applies there. There's Windows 8 support also available today. So, now I have my application in Windows Marketplace. Okay, what happens next? First, there is automated tests. Certain rules, which are always have to be passed. These automated tests at the moment are actually part of Visual Studio. So if I go back to my project and choose Open Marketplace Test Kit, I have the automated tests right here. There is certain rules. For example, I need certain icons and screenshots. I can run these automated tests, which are exactly the same. It was trial. I have to make it a release build. So let's run the automated tests, and I will get some results, whether it's even possible that it will pass or not. So there was, for example, my icon size in this case was wrong. It was 99 pixels, not 62. And these are the same tests that they actually use in the marketplace. And you also need here a few screenshots and a few icons, and you can put these there. There's also manual tests here. And the idea of manual tests is that there are certain rules, like start your application, navigate back, and this is what is supposed to happen. But there is no automation. There is just kind of check these things, and these are the things they are actually they're testing. I mean, the automated tests are, of course, first. That's the first thing in Windows Marketplace before anyone actually kind of is involved. By the way, there is a human factor before we are in this. There's automated test and always someone testing it. So there is actually a human factor, which means that in some cases, exactly same application might be accepted or not. Because someone can say, okay, this is not okay. Oh, no, this is okay. Okay, this is the last thing that I will see in Windows Marketplace. Unhide application succeeded. So when I put my application into Windows Marketplace, I can decide whether it's released right away or whether it's released when I want after the certification. After unhiding, it's available in all the countries I like, but it's not immediately available. Because think about it. We have like 60 countries. So when I release it, it actually kind of goes to cloud. It's replicated to different countries, different places. So it takes a few hours, probably more like one day, before it's available everywhere. So my experience is that in all the cases I have experienced, it's about 1 week. So certification process takes about 1 week. But do not count on this. It might take 2 weeks. If they're busy, they're getting a lot of applications, it's totally possible that it takes 2 weeks. But my experience in all cases has been 1 week. So after it's released, it's available in Windows Marketplace. There is the graphics, which are required, at least one screenshot, few tiles. This is the website version of it. And in your phones, you have, of course, the Marketplace version. And you can download. Probably already you did. I don't know. But these are available, as I said. So what happens next? You start to get kind of a telemetry from Application Hub. How much of these applications are downloaded? This is kind of the last situation, like what happened during last day. And it's kind of fun that actually when there is a word free, it seems that people download it a lot more than those which doesn't have the word free, but that's how it goes. I mean, the sketch views and sketch maps, without the free, it's exactly the same version as those free. The only thing is that there is a, you have to trial mode and buy it after that if you want to get rid of those advertisements. Well, €1, then you don't need those, you don't have to see those advertisements anymore. There is a lot of data. This is just one example. One interesting thing is that there is recent crashes. So you know that, okay, there is probably something wrong if that counter goes up. So, making money, fast version. So there is the trial. There is the ads. One thing which is good in Windows Phone, there's live tiles, not dead ones like in some other phones. It's a very good way to get your kind of application noticed. Use them. Because, I mean, many of the applications are like you download it and then you kind of forget it. But if you have a live tile, you have some kind of content which kind of pops up, reminds you the possibility that someone is using it again is much higher. One factor is also localization. In my case, my applications are available everywhere. But localized content is a thing that is quite popular. I mean, if I'm in Finland, a lot of people want to have Finnish news, whatever. Localize if possible. It's of course impossible to localize it to all the 60 countries, at least if one person is doing it, and get promoted. What this actually means: make a good application. If you started Windows Marketplace, this is the first thing that you see. In this view, we have the promoted applications. And the best thing that can happen is that you are there the number one. You can actually choose that picture there, which is a formula car in this case. And so it gets downloaded. The next best thing is that you are in featured, because that's something the people see in the beginning. A lot of download. But of course, the competition is fierce. We have probably close to 100,000 applications. To get there is not easy. In my case, however, if you go to Finnish Marketplace, right now, the first application it will give you is Sketchmaps. So it's there, your number one choice in Windows Marketplace. If you are in some other countries, there's different rules, so it doesn't necessarily see. So it's not there, but if you are in England or whatever, you can download it, but then you just have to search it. But in Finland, it's there, it's promoted. And of course, it's the best place to be. Well, how do you get there? That's not too easy. But there is some ideas that you have to kind of consider. There is certain things that Microsoft tries to find from your application. So in general, functionality, utility, and delight. Let's have a little dive to these things. And first, let's start from the functionality. So, the basics first. It has to be fast. It doesn't crash. It's responsive. It does what it says it does. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Ease of use. Well, if someone downloads an application and tries to figure out what it's doing like 2 minutes, most likely he's never coming back. So ease of use is important. Functionality, it works, it's fast, it's easy to use. And dynamic content is also good. It would be quite stupid to have a newsreader without dynamic content, but that's not probably going to happen. Features, visual impact. Visual impact, it's a kind of hard thing, because in general, our design language is Metro, which means that you don't necessarily want to put all the chrome and shadows there. So kind of trying to make it visually appealing, but still not too much chrome is hard. One thing which is kind of most difficult is originality. How do you do something that hasn't been done before? By the way, there actually isn't any other application like Sketchmaps where you can freely draw on map. It's kind of simple idea in a way, but it's the first. And let's face it, in general, the applications what we have in the marketplace, mostly it's spam. It really is. I mean, if there's like 1 million applications and there's like 5,000 Sudokus, There isn't really too much innovation in that. And for example, in Finland, there is a thing called reittiopas. How many versions we have of that? Quite many. There isn't necessarily much new innovation in that. So if you have a good idea, well, that's probably your chance. Wow. That's always good. Hard to achieve. The best thing is, of course, that you can show the application to someone and it's like, oh, and he shows it to your friend and download it, and so it goes. In general, try to use design language, which is typical for Windows Phone. Kind of, if you have an application already for, let's say, for iPhone or Android, there's different rules. So do not try to make the application exactly the same in Windows Phone. Because you have panoramas, you have pivots, which are kind of typical for Windows phones. So exactly copy of application, first in iPhone and then the Windows Phone, is going to fail. Because the people using it, they are going around your phone, not your application. So they learn how to use it, and when they download a new application, if it's kind of similar, that's important. Mistakes. Mistakes I have made so that you don't have to. This is actually not that important. But there is a manifest file where you have to declare the capabilities that you use. So if I have a gamer services and I don't use it, I should take it out of the way. This is actually not that important, because when I upload this to Windows Marketplace, it checks automatically and takes those capabilities away, which I don't really use. But in case where you are upgrading your application from 7 to 7.5, you probably have to tweak this a little bit. Okay, something more interesting. This is actual report which came from the first certification attempt of sketch maps. So one interesting thing there is that, as you can see there in the red square, there is a few phones they have tested. So there's always someone testing it. Always. What happened then? Location policy. I'm not the first one, but this wasn't okay. If you use GPS, a location, you have to tell that how you use it, where you store it. If you don't do it, it's going to fail. So my application failed. How I fixed it? You actually saw it already, but this is how I fixed it. There has to be a location policy. How do you use the location? How it's stored? And the user has to accept it. And even if the user accepts it, you must always have option to disable it. So that's always required. And after that, the next certification attempt was better. This, of course, is you have to accept this only once. And once it's there, you need to have disabled access location. And when you go back, my GPS button is there. It's gray. So I don't have a location. So these things must be done like that. If you don't, you always have to wait 1 week more, because if it fails, it always takes 1 week to recertify it. Okay. Another thing that you have to do is this. If you use map, there is this invalid credentials. Okay, that's not going to pass certification. What do you have to do? Go to Bing Maps and register your application there. It's totally free. So in case of Windows Phone, you can use maps as much as you like. There's no fee, it's included. And probably we are going to see also maps from Nokia in the future. But at the moment it's free, so you get the application key which you have to put in the map. And then there's no invalid credentials after that. But by the way, there is terms of use. Read them carefully. Because, for example, in my case, I am changing the map because I can draw on it. And it's explicitly denied to make changes if you have the satellite view. That says it. So I cannot actually put the satellite view in there if I draw on it, because I'm changing the map. So I cannot put it in there. The terms of use deny it. So, common mistakes. We have themes. We have light theme and we have dark theme. And the problem is, of course, if you have dark theme, your text is going to be white. If you have white theme, your text is going to be dark. So if you hardcore your colors, for example, my text is white, it's going to kind of disappear in white theme. How you can test it? Easily. It's part of expression blend. But in Visual Studio, you don't actually have that. But this is something they actually try. They test it on different colors, and if your text is disappearing, you are hard-coding things, fail. Don't do it. Okay, let's say that someone is listening to music. That's something that is supposed to happen in background. So you can put them your favorite music and start surfing around. So what I did in my application, I had this kind of nice camera sound there. When you save the picture, the map with the drawing, there was one problem. It kind of stopped the music. So it was failed. You may not stop music. If there's music playing back in the background, that's what the user wants. You may not do anything for that. And if you know it, it's that easy. That's the fix. With XNA, it's just, is there something in the background? What is the media state playing? Okay. It's just one line. But this might be the reason why it's failing. Warning. Warning. Let's say that your application is published, is in Windows Marketplace, everywhere. And then you want to make just a small change to the description, one letter. You have to recertify it. I mean, the smallest change is always recertification. I mean, if you have a typo somewhere and you want to fix it, it's a recertification. If I publish to a new country, it's recertification. If I change the price, it's recertification. So even the smallest changes always requires certification. Well, it's probably a little bit faster. It's not necessarily 1 week, because they have checked the XAP file that's just noting, okay, the description is okay, it's just a little different. Let's go. Model view, view model. So this is the pattern how things are supposed to be. This is how you should design your user interface, right? Well, there was actually one session about this. And it's for those who don't know it, it's a little bit like model view controller pattern. But this is a kind of variation of it. Well, it's a little bit overkill. The problem is that if you are making a simple application, it's seriously overkill. If you are making a complex application, after a while, you don't have any idea where you are. Pat Helland, in one of his sessions, said that grown-ups don't use distributed transactions. I agree. I have a version of it. Grown-ups don't use model, view, view, model. In real life, it sucks. Seriously. I didn't use this pattern. Although, when I'm giving, for example, Windows Presentation Foundation course or Silverlight course, I of course teach it. I understand the pattern. But be careful. It has some problems. And by the way, this text is from the designer who invented the pattern. Tips. Well, there was your tip. But more. Tools. Tricks. Stuff. So, Visual Studio is not your only tool. Or Blend. There is a package called Expression Studio. Very important. And the good thing is that you probably have licenses for this. You probably you were not aware of this. So what we do with the Expression Studio? Official story is that it's for the designer. So there is an application like Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator. Vector graphics is good for the graphics. You can make the different tiles, your splash screen, and you can make also the icons so that those work correctly in light and dark theme. And the user interface is very blendish. So it looks like Blend. The logic is very much the same. That's what I used. But there is certain things, even if you use Adobe products, there's a few things. Let's say that you are using scalable vector graphics, HTML5 format, or Windows Meta file. You try to copy-paste things to Blend. It will fail every time. Blend doesn't understand these things. So you get really weird error messages. How you fix it? What you have in design does have a lot more support for different formats. I mean, scalable vector graphics, yes. Windows Meta file, you can just copy-paste it to design, and there is a very important option, copy XAML. So it converts to a format which Windows Phone, and by the way, Windows Presentation Foundation, and all the rest understands. So that's your kind of, it's important because you can do scalable vector graphics format, and using design, you can actually copy-paste it there. And, of course, in general, other designers use Adobe products. That's just how it is. I mean, Photoshop, Illustrator, import options for those are in design. It's kind of, the designers are not going to use Expression Design now. They want to use their Adobe products, probably in the future too. So you need a way to export those to your Windows Phone. That's the way. The design, Expression Design is there. So, screenshots for the marketplace. That's in the emulator. It's easy. It wasn't in the first SDK, but now it's there. So you can just capture the image, and you can have 8 screenshots, but at least you need to have 1 in marketplace. Otherwise, it's not certified. More. Expression Studio Ultimate contains a lot of different products. Let's say that you would like to have a tutorial. I mean, it's a good idea. For example, in my case, I have video tutorials for my applications in YouTube. So how did I do those? I used Expression Encoder Screen Capture and Emulator. Captured video, and then one more product. Expression Encoder. I used Expression Encoder to encode that format to format which I could upload to YouTube. But there's other reasons why we would also like to do this. We are in mobile environment, and there is certain limitations. I mean, the screen size, it's small. So there's no point in putting a large high-definition video to your phone. With this encoder, you can encode it to smaller, And also you can actually encode it to format which is understandable in Windows Phone. There's, for example, one thing which is really weird. If you have a video file in your phone, so you use youre to kind of move it to your PC, and the format is actually MP4. The weird thing is that if you put that MP4 back to your phone, it doesn't work. Stupid, but this is how it is. So what you do, you take the encoder and convert it to WMV and make it smaller, and then it works. That's how it is. And this is not only video encoding, it's also audio encoding. Once again, no point in putting high definition, uncompressed stuff to your phone. Make it smaller. You don't need to have your 7.1 audio stuff there. So, many reasons. And obviously one thing is that it's nice if it's downloadable fast. And of course there is certain limits for the XAP package size. Last week Nokia launched these products. So Lumia 900 and 610 in Barcelona. So there's kind of two sides. A new excellent high-end phone, but on the other hand, another phone which is for more like evolving markets. So it's a little bit cheaper, it's a lot cheaper. I think it's 189 euros or something like that. And of course it will drop dramatically, so very rapidly. And the good thing is that it is actually a phone which has the same API. I mean, the screen resolution is the same. And at the moment, pretty much all the applications actually work there. So it's like a little bit like the same thing as with a PC. I mean, you can go to a store, buy a high-end gaming PC, or you can buy your low-end laptop. But basically, I mean, the office is going to work in both of them. So this is a little bit the same thing. There's certain things which don't really work. For example, background agents do not work. But otherwise, everything else works. And this is for evolving markets. I mean, in Finland we are probably fine with the phone which is like 500 euros, but well, go somewhere else, it's a lot of money, even that is. So, what works and what doesn't? One thing, one big difference is that there is less memory. So, in general, all the phones have 512 megabytes, and that phone has 256. So that's actually the biggest limitation. And in Nokia's developer site, last week was released best practice tips for delivering apps to Windows Phone with 2, 5, 6 megabytes of memory. So there is kind of, this is a very good document. I recommend that you read it because it tells what you are supposed to do and what things don't necessarily work in that environment. So looking to the future, already when you are doing your applications today, it's good to kind of think the next steps. There is also a pre-release version of the emulator already available, which is for the lower memory. So you can test today your applications even in the situation where we don't have the hardware for it. So, at the end of the day, it's not just about coding. It's not just about applications and phones. I mean, there is certain challenges, certainly. I mean, how many applications you have to sell if the price is €1? Or let's say that it's even €2, quite a lot. Of course, you can get a few euros probably from advertisements also, a little bit more. But if you really want to make money, it's a kind of a trial and error process. It really is. And of course, the best situation is this. I mean, if you can sell your backpack with 80 euros, you kind of have your fuzzy toys. That's the best. And for them, it was trial and error. I think they made like 40 applications before they succeeded. 50. So it's quite a lot. And this is the competition is really fierce. I mean, making a good application isn't necessarily enough. You are just one of really many. So it's good to kind of think these other options. One more thing. In the beginning, I showed a website which was tile maps. If you want to have certification of Windows Phone, it's now possible. At the moment, there is 360 exams in Microsoft space. And there is, at the moment, available certifications, which is designing and developing Windows Phone application. I actually passed that test about 2 weeks ago. I think there is probably in Finland like no more than 10 people who have passed that. But you can actually certify yourself. And this is actually required if you want to have a partnership with Microsoft. So that's one thing. And if you want to have the professional level of Windows Phone development, this is what you require. For actually 3 different exams. So there is one for the Silverlight, one for database development, and third exam, which is all about Windows Phone. And then you get Windows, Microsoft Certified Professional Developer Windows Phone. There's actually one weird thing here. As this exam was released before Mango or 7.5, the questions are 7.0 specific. And it's really different as, for example, the life cycle of the application is different. There's no fast application switching, for example. Well, there is a link to Microsoft page, but that seems to be down. So there is the description of that. What should I ask and so on. So let's go a little bit back. And one more thing. Here I have the sketch maps and sketch views, both websites. So, as I said, check that the website is available. Register it before you do anything else. And here's a video introduction, which is available there. And this was made using the screen capture. And on the other hand, expression encoder. It tells what it is. So people will probably download a little bit more. So this wasn't the last session. The next one is pure fun. Have a good evening. Thank you. And this time, you have been here whole day. I'm not going to take any questions. Please party. If you have questions, come forward. I will, answer, of course. But for the rest, party. party.